All right, we're live for Digital Learning Day, our second to last session. We're here with Megan, and she's going to talk to us about an interesting way that you can use a Snapchat-like idea in your classroom. So go get it, Megan.
Great. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Megan DiGiovanni. I am one of the secondary integrators for Chesterfield County. And I appreciate you joining in with me today to talk about BookSnap. So before we jump into what a BookSnap is and my session, I want to make sure that you can participate live if you want to and ask questions during the session. So I'm going to share my screen with you and get you to our Q&A doc that we are utilizing today for all of our Digital Learning Day in session. So this should be the doc that we're going to head to. Here, for those of you that aren't with Chesterfield County and didn't access us through the EdTech Hub, you can type in the bit.ly link that is right up here under Q&A doc. Open up a new tab in your browser, type in bit, that's a .ly/2k, capital P, capital U, capital T, lowercase p, lowercase f. So I'm going to give you a minute to get that bit.ly link typed in and head on over to the Q&A doc. So the way the sessions are set up today is as I'm presenting, and I'll be talking to you for about 15 minutes, you have the ability to ask questions on this Google Doc, and I will circle back around to the doc at the end of my session and try to answer any questions that you might have put on there. And if there aren't any questions on there at that point, but you think of some later, you can drop them on there and I'll try to get back to you later. So I'm going to head to that doc just so you can see it. So here's the Google Doc that we're using today for questions and answers. And if you click under the table of contents on schedule, it's a bookmark. And you can click where it says bookmark and it will jump you down to the schedule. And you got to scroll just a little bit further. There's my session. I'm the 3:30 to 3:45 on BookSnaps. If you click where it says BookSnaps, it's another bookmark. It's going to drop you down here. So the great thing about this doc is you can type in your name and your email. If I need to email you to get back to you to answer your question, I can do that. And then you can type your question and answer underneath those columns. But I've also included a resource for today's class. So it's located up here at the top where it says resource for BookSnaps. If you click on those words, resource for BookSnaps, and open it up, it is a step-by-step of what we're going to be doing today. All right, so we're ready to get started with BookSnaps. So I'm really excited about BookSnaps. This is an idea that's been kind of taking Twitter by storm lately, and it was originally shared by Tara Martin. And on that one-sheeter I just showed you is a link to Tara's website, and she is an innovative and fantastic educator to follow and look at. And you can also follow her on Twitter. And she started kind of the BookSnaps hashtag on Twitter, and you can see how teachers across the country are utilizing BookSnaps in their classroom. Now, Tara actually uses Snapchat to create BookSnaps, but we're not going to focus on that today. We're actually going to use tools that in Chesterfield County we have available for students and teachers to use, and we're going to use Google Draw and Google Classroom. So you might be wondering what a BookSnap is. So I'm going to show you an example, and we're going to talk about why you would want to use this with your students. So here's my example. Let me pull it up for you. This is a BookSnap. So think about Snapchat. If you've ever seen Snapchat, it's a way that it's an app that people use to kind of snap pictures of what's going on in their lives, and then they can use filters and emojis and images on top of it, and they can put text to kind of liven up their photo. So a BookSnap works in a lot of the same way, except instead of focusing on taking a selfie or a picture of what you had for dinner or where you're at, it's about the reading. And so you're going to have students make a visual representation of what they're learning and thinking by creating these BookSnaps. It's a way to get them to dive deeper into the reading that you're having them do and kind of synthesize the information they read and produce something visual that helps you see how they're thinking about and processing that information. So in my example right here, I'm reading a book right now called H3, Leadership, Be Humble, Be Hungry, Stay Hungry, and Always Hustle. And you can actually see I put the citation at the top for my book. We want to make sure we're being good digital citizens and including the citation for any of the works that we're having students BookSnap. So I took a picture of the page, and I'm going to show you how to do this in a minute. And then I overlaid my avatar. So that's kind of what I look like in avatar form. And did a call out around a part that I thought was particularly interesting, and then also circled a piece of the text that kind of supported the idea of learning is equal to leading, that good leaders are always good learners. So that is an example of a specific book chat for the book that I'm reading. I'm going to show you how to have students do that, and we're going to go through some of the steps that you might want to walk them through and how you could guide them to get to some deeper reflection and understanding. Now, a couple of ways you could use this in your classroom. I've kind of talked about engaging them in deeper reading, but it's also great for a reflection on key ideas and also key terminology. So it could be a new way that you could approach doing vocabulary. So you have a student read a section of the textbook and they need to pick out a vocabulary word in the definition, having them book snap it, and then circling that definition and finding an image that matches the meaning of that definition would be a great way to get them to really approach that vocabulary and make deeper connections through creation. And that's what Book Snaps is all about, creating something out of our reading. All right, so let's get started on how to make one. So I'm actually going to go to my Google Drive. So if you are from Chesterfield County, you can locate your Google Drive on your my.ccpsnet.net dashboard, and it'll take you here. And I'm going to start by going to the New button and coming down to More and Google Drawing. So we're going to be utilizing a Google Draw today. So if you want to go ahead and open up your Google Drive and click New and come down to More just like I just did, and then click on Google Drawings. That's going to set you up with a blank canvas that we can begin to create our first book snap on. And I'm going to drop it into that shared folder. So the great part about a Google Draw is that you kind of start with a blank canvas, and there's lots of different ways that you can utilize a Google Draw. Book Snaps is just one of many, and you can talk to your integrator about all their uses for Google Draw, but it's one of my favorite products. We're going to actually start by using the Insert menu up at the top, and we're going to insert an image. This is how we're going to actually take our snap. So I'm kind of going to go through snapping, and then how you can reflect and sticker that snap, and then how you can have students share it in Google Classroom today. So the first step, though, is to actually take the snap. So if you go to Insert Image, and we're actually going to take a snapshot. So this button's coming up, and I'm going to allow the camera on my to be accessed by my computer. And I'm going to say allow. And hi, now you can see me through my camera. And then I'm going to grab my book. So book I'm reading. And this takes a little bit of skill and practice, but I am going to get my book close to my camera. With one hand, hold it there. And with the other hand, take a snapshot. So this is one way to get an image into a Google Draw. Another way would be if they're reading an online text, and this would be a really great thing to do on the Chromebook. As they're reading something online, they could actually take a screenshot of what they're reading online and insert the screenshot into the Google Draw. But we're going to go with my snapshot. So you see the blue boxes around it there, and I'm going to click Select to drop it into my Google Drawing. So there we go. So we're back at my Google Drawing. So in case you're unfamiliar with Google Draw, it works a lot like Google Presentations. The menu is very similar to what you can do. It's object driven. So you have some options up at the top, and I'm going to show you a few that you could utilize to do book snaps really quickly. So the first thing is I want to get rid of my fingers and get those out of my book snap. So I have an option to crop the image. So if you select your image, you know you select it because the blue box is around the image, and then you come up to the tool up here that is crop image. You can click crop image, and you'll have black lines around your corners and in the middle, and I can click and drag those down and drag those over to crop my book snap. And then I could increase the size of it to fit my canvas a little bit better. Okay, so some of the other tools that you and your students might find useful in creating your first book snap would be the shape tools. So you have shapes, all kinds of different shapes. You have arrows, you have call outs, And you do have some equation options. And then you also have lines. So I can draw straight lines with arrows, but I can also scribble and draw curved lines. So if they want to circle something on their own, they could do that. So I'm actually going to pick a call out. Here we go. I'm going to click, hold, and drag it over because I want to really highlight this part. And then you'll notice it fills in automatically as this light blue color. So I want to come up to my fill bucket up in the top of my menu. And with that light blue color, I want to make it transparent. So now I can see through it, but I really want to bring more attention to it. So right next to the fill color is the line color. So I'm going to make mine bright yellow. Next to that line color, so we're still working up here. We did the fill color was transparent. Line color, we dropped down to a bright yellow. Then line weight. So I'm going to up my line weight a little bit. And so my quote says there is a marked difference between a calling and an assignment, and failing to recognize it as a one-way ticket to frustration station. So I want this to go specifically around calling an assignment, because I think that is the most important thing that we're identifying here, is that there is a difference between what is a calling and an assignment in my book. So I draw my call out around that. Other things students could do is they can use the text box, like I did in my example where I had leading equals learning, and I can type, is it a calling or a job? And I can make that larger up here using some of my menu options. So there we go. Now another fun thing that they could do is they could insert images over the top of this. They can also use word art to add some pizzazz to their book snap. You really want to make this fun and creative for students to be able to do. Now, when they're finished with their book snap and they're ready to share, they're going to come to File, Download As, and you want to either choose a JPEG or a PNG. A PNG is going to have this background be transparent over here. A JPEG, you're going to see kind of the whole canvas. So if this isn't covered up, we would still be able to see that checkerboard. So I'm going to go with a PNG, and that's going to download for me. Now, if you're using Google Classroom, this is a great way to have students share, because you could set up, and I'm going to really quickly jump to my Google Classroom. There's my Digital Learning Day class. But I could set up an assignment for book snaps and have my students either turn it in on Google Classroom as part of an assignment to me, or if you want to take it one step further, you could create an announcement that you post and then have them reply to your announcement with a link to their book snap. So they could come up here and copy and paste a link here. Or if you're really daring, so we're giving you lots of options on how they could share it, students could, if you have this feature turned on in Google Classroom, make their own post to your stream with that downloaded image that we created. So you have a couple of different ways to share in Google Classroom, and that might be something to talk to your integrator about if you still have questions. So that was a really quick introduction to book snaps and Google Draw, and how we use Google Draw to create our very first book snap. Really important here, the snap is pretty easy to get in there, but you really want to help students to reflect and go deeper. So it might be a good idea to give them some guiding questions to answer when you set them off, or a task to complete, like the vocabulary example I gave earlier, to create their first book snap or set of book snaps. But not only should they be creating, but the sharing is also really important. So don't forget to figure out a way, either through Google Classroom or another method, to allow them to share. So I am very quickly, with my last minute or so, going to jump back to that Q&A doc and double check and see if anybody asked any questions, and see if I can squeeze in a question or two if I have any hanging out down here for my book snaps session. So no questions as of right now, but if you dial in a little bit and decide you have a question, feel free to drop it on the Q&A doc, and I will be sure to get back to you with an answer. I really appreciate you watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's session and presentation. Don't forget, on that same Q&A doc that I gave you the bit.ly for at the beginning of the session is a link to the resource one-sheeter with everything that we did today that you might find helpful. So thanks so much for spending a little bit of time with me this afternoon. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed Digital Learning Day as much as I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Megan. That was a great presentation on Digital Learning Day and how we can take Snapchat-like ideas and fold them into instruction. So I appreciate your willingness to share.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
Take care.